Don't you hate it when you try to plan something with your friends and all of a sudden, no one can come? Or you have a first date or a date with someone you already know coming up and you have no idea how to plan for it. Or maybe you really want to plan something with a new group of people that you just met from work or school. Or you're in luck because in this video, I'm going to show you how I plan fun events for new and old friends that they'll actually show up to, as well as how I plan a good date with someone that I've just met or that I already know that they will definitely remember.
Oh Lord, it's good to be here with you, Mr. O'Brien.
I have a very valid question to ask you. Why should you trust me? Well, in just a few short years, I went from having next to no friends, never dating anyone in my life, and feeling extremely lonely, to making friends like it's nothing, and sometimes going on up to 3 dates a week. Okay, let's dive in. So imagine this. So you're at a new university, school, workplace, or perhaps you're finding your footing in a new group of people. How do you turn those people into friends, or at least see if you should? Well, what I like to do is I like to find an activity, and I'll give some suggestions afterwards. Then, I create a group chat and add people one by one. I'll simply just casually bring it up or even go around asking, hey, you want to come and do this with us? Yeah? Alright. What's your contact? What's your Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, phone number? And then I'll add them to the group chat and we'll plan everything else from there. Cool, but what kind of activities do I plan and why does this work so well for most people? I think the best activities to set up are easy to plan public activities like mini golf, going out drinking, bowling, shopping, or even a dinner or lunch together. Now, I've personally had the most success going either bowling or going out drinking. Now, why do I think this cheeky little group chat method works very well? I think the biggest factor is because it makes a very casual and low pressure environment, not just for the people who are being in the plan, but me who's planning it. It's so easy to approach people with such an accessible and acceptable thing. And it makes it really easy to plant those seeds of mutual trust and confidence. So even if I don't come out of it making best friends with absolutely everyone in the group, I at least feel a lot more comfortable talking to them and them talking to me, and maybe even each other, which makes their lives better too, not just mine. How well do you really know your close friends? I think you should at least be able to guess roughly whether or not a certain friend or friend group is available on a certain day or time. Right now, it's in the middle of the university exam season, so more than half my friends aren't allowed to see daylight until halfway through November. Unlucky, but generally, I would lock in a date as soon as possible. But what if we're not 100% sure about this kind of stuff? What do I do if I don't know when my friends are available? Say it with me. I ask, and then I listen. It's not unusual to be upfront and honest with them. Just asking, hey, what time this month are you free to go on a hike? Or even, what does your weekly schedule look like at the moment? Conversations like this save me a lot of headaches and have even led to things like weekly breakfasts. I love to have brekkie with one of my mates every Tuesday morning, and I love looking forward to it on my miserable Mondays. Okay, so we know when we can plan things, but how do we know they'll actually show up? Well, I want you to ask yourself, what makes you want to show up to events that people plan? For me, it's 2 major contributors. I have a feeling when I asked you that question, the first thing that came to your mind is what is being planned. Plan something actually fun. That's what makes most people want to come. But how do I know what's fun? I'll try to remember what myself and my friends have enjoyed in the past. Heck, I might even ask them after an event what they thought. For me, my friends love going on hikes, they love dinners, they love board games, bowling, even night drives. So I'll find a new restaurant, or I'll have a look at some hikes and try to find a new and unique one. Maybe I'll set up a quiz night. My friends and I absolutely love a big competitive quiz night with lots of prizes and hard questions. It gets chaotic as hell and it's almost never a miss. Okay, that's the first one, but what do I think is the second big contributor? Well, not all my friends are the same, and I think it's safe to say that your friends aren't all the same either. Inviting the right friends will make or break a great time. I can think of a couple people, or I could walk in the mud on a rainy day barefoot with just them, and it would be a great and memorable time. Inviting the right friends will help bring others together. They'll help you encourage others to come along, and they'll just make the vibes S tier. I think you should have a couple of friends in the back of your mind where you could do just about anything without really planning something and still have fun. We're missing something here, something so important that if you miss it, you probably won't have a memorable time at all. Sometimes I'll plan outings 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even 2 months ahead of time, depending on what it is. But why? That's an insanely long amount of time. Well, an obvious reason is that it maximizes attendance. More people can come the further ahead you book. But it also maximizes hype and excitement. Imagine you've got a really long exam week or you've got a lot of work coming up. Well, at the end of that time, there's a big hike, or we're going on a road trip. Or maybe it's as simple as going out to a bar. I don't know about you, but the knowledge that something fun is coming up is gonna make my day much easier. And it gives me a good enough reason to keep going. Sometimes though, something happens. Something horrible. You get a message on your phone, and all of a sudden, a day or two before, maybe even the day of, no one can show up. I hate this, and when it happens, I just want to lie down in my bed and drink myself to death. But seriously though, most of the time, in the back of my mind, I'll have a plan B. If less people can come, I'll just plan something a bit closer or easier to set up. Sometimes though, for my plan B, I'll just end up going by myself anyways. It's really no big deal. Doing things by myself, solo activities, make me a lot more confident though in the long run. And every time I go to a cafe by myself or I go for a long hike, it makes me feel a whole lot more confident, like a whole new person, like I can do anything. And I think doing things alone is very valuable. But it really never hurts to double check with everyone and confirm that they're actually going to show up. Not every outing needs to be perfectly planned 5 million years ahead of time though. Friends, if they're good friends, would be more than happy to tag along with you to places you are already going or haven't even planned. Enough about friends though. What about special romantic relationships? Ooh. How do I make a date interesting? Well, I'm going to show you for people who want to plan out a date. And I'm going to show you what I think is a pretty common mistake that I like to avoid. Are you meeting someone for the first time? Maybe it's through a dating app or through a friend and you're on a first date. I have a question for you. What does a coffee at a cafe, a museum, a walk in the city garden, or even a dinner have in common? Well, they're all accessible and public places. A person you've never met would feel comfortable and safe, like they could leave at any time for any reason. That lets you both stretch your legs and feel confident and really get to know each other. When I plan my first dates in particular, I like to plan them efficiently. I don't want to fluff around. So, I give them a time and a place, and if they can't make it, I kindly ask what their schedule looks like for the rest of the week. I think what I'm trying to say is have some self-respect. Try not to drop absolutely everything just so you can see someone you've never even met before. But what do I personally avoid? What's a big no-no in my book? Well, watching a movie or bowling or something like that. And why? Well, what are you doing when you're watching a movie? You're both staring at a screen. And what are you doing when you're bowling? One of you's sitting down, the other one's throwing a bowling ball down an alley and knocking over some pins. And why do I think this is a bad thing? Well, when you're on a first date, what are you there to do? You're not there to see who can win at bowling, and you're not there to watch a movie. You're there to get to know each other, right? And how could you possibly do that if you're distracted? So personally, I like to stick to public, accessible, and engaging activities with my first date. But what about someone you already know, someone you already feel comfortable with? Maybe it's a second or third date. Maybe it's a 15th. Maybe you've known them for 15 years and you've been married. Well, I've got some really juicy tips and I've got an amazing one right towards the end. Well, when I'm planning these kinds of dates, I plan them like I'm planning a bank heist. Okay, maybe not, but you get the point. I plan it well, and I get to know my surroundings, where I'm going, roughly when, how, all that kind of stuff. Just so it goes smoothly, just so it has that maximum enjoyment, maximum romantic value. Now, I don't plan everything, as a side note, just the basics and maybe little extras, which we'll get into later. For example, I'm going to have dinner here, then I'm going to walk to the gardens here, then I'll get some ice cream here, then I'll drop them off at home. And it never hurts to leave a little extra room for some spontaneity. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to give you 2 extremely juicy pro tips right now. Stick around. So I mentioned little extras, and these are little additions I like to add to my dates to keep them exciting. Now, sometimes I won't give a gift directly to someone. Sometimes I'll let them find it themselves, or maybe I'll have a special way of them finding it. So, for example, one time when I dropped someone off on a date, I purposefully left some chocolate behind to let them find it later on with their name on it. Sometimes I might set up something as simple as sitting on a bench that I know about that's in a really good spot. Or maybe I'll take a very scenic route somewhere. Once I wrote a note even and stuck it on their mirror. You could leave one in their purse or wallet. Perhaps I'll book a spot at our dinner at a really nice window table. or I might dress extra nice. Those are some great ways you can spice up your dates a little bit and make them a little more thought out. But what is the best tip from me? How do you plan a date where the other person will really appreciate it? Well, you could take a page out of the last chapter where I talked about actually planning a good outing. A good activity is important as well, but there's mystery in a date, which makes it exciting. And how do you keep mystery in a date? Well, personally, I keep it a secret. I like to keep it as a surprise, especially on later dates and well into a relationship. It keeps it exciting, not just for them, but for me too. I want to see how they'll react. Now, obviously, I won't keep it a secret if we're going to go out shopping for groceries or something like that. But if we're going out on a nice river walk, or stargazing, or at a very nice cafe, I'm not going to tell them exactly what we're doing or where we're going. But of course, I'm still going to respect their general questions. I'm going to let them know what the dress code is, or how far away it might be, or how long we'll be gone. And if things don't go to plan, I like to stay calm and improvise to make sure it goes along as smoothly as possible. Trust me, just about every single time I've done this, the other person has absolutely loved trying to guess what it might be. And they really appreciate it, especially when it's a well planned out date. So, what's your own personal way of planning out a date or an outing? Does your friend group work in different ways, and what kind of dates have you been on that made you really impress? Just remember, at the end of the day, this isn't textbook and everyone is different.